Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Vandy. So back with a card fight Vanguard deck profile. So because you enjoyed them, like, subscribe, and we'll start, shall we? This time we are covering Keter Sanctuary Minerva set 8. So it's very weird that this is not the last deck profile I'm doing, considering Minerva was the one that we all pretty much cared about for set 8, or everyone else cared about for set 8. Me personally, I didn't care for shit about Minerva, and I mean, I'm glad that we got Minerva because honestly she's fun to play, but I just didn't care for her that much. But yeah, so I'm not doing her last. If you've all watched the last 10 videos, or last, I guess, counting this one, 8 videos, then you know the pattern now of what's going to come next. So let's go and get the deck profile started and see how fun Minerva is and how well the deck actually functions, because even though it's only one set of support, it still does pretty good in the one set. So first up we have, oh yeah, don't forget, these are the decks are not built for their most optimum builds, so if you're looking for a more optimal version of Minerva, then clearly click off this video right now, but if you're just looking for a fun version built by me, then continue watching. Now let's go and get this started, shall we? First up, we have our starter in Vivid Rabbit, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, auto and Rotopine can win second draw card. Standard start on special battle base, so that means that this, when you go second, you just get to free draw, and that's pretty much it, really. You can really make this any starter because none of the Radland requires this, but having a different Genesis name kind of does help because there's a certain loop you can do that would, well, not loop, but a certain combo you can do that would guarantee you a Minerva stand skill. So Vivid Rabbit is best to have as a starter if it will do nothing until that combo is pulled off. But again, you can run such starter if you want, but I like to have that one-off chance that it might be useful. It's the same reason we run Eric in the Maelstrom deck, just in case. Then we have our normal, first up we have our triggers. First up we have the Over Trigger and True Arbitrator Dragon of 100 Swords, Dudorov Vassel. I butchered that name in some regard. So this is apparently the world original English Overtrigger for Keter. I originally didn't run this because I didn't even know this thing fucking existed until I was building the deck for this on Google Slides, and then I randomly saw this on the fandom, and I was like, holy shit. Well, I guess I might as well show off this since I never really show off the world original cards. So grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power, Overtrigger, you mail one Overtrigger in your deck, reveals a trigger, melee card, draw a card, choose one being supposed to move for the turn, and reveal it during your draft check, activate its additional effect, which is, you until end of turn, you also perform draft checks for the battles your rear guard swung, which means if you swung with grade 3 rear guards, they would have twin drive, meaning you could technically get a total of 6-tuple drive, or in this deck, septuple drive. Is that 7? I think it's 7. Well, a lot of drives, basically, and that's fun in this deck, because that just means abuse every trigger you've got, and that's fun doing that when you have a restanding Vanguard, and possible grade 3 rear guards, and the best part is this deck does actually call grade 3 rear guards. Granted, rarely, and typically you swing with one of them before you swing with the Vanguard, depending on what turn it is, but all around the Overtrigger is very nice to have in this deck, adding the extra 1,000,000 and adding extra drive check pressure, along with the free draw and 1,000,000 regardless if you drive checked it or damage checked it. So what's not to like about it? Obviously you run this as a one of, you can pick between this or Amortinoa, and I mean you could pick Obari for the 1,000,000 bust, but come on, pick this one, get your drive checks, abuse your opponent with hand cards, because trust me, this deck kind of gets really weird with hand cards at a very certain stage of the game. And then we have our normal triggers. We run a total of 7 crits, which I forgot about when I was fucking recording that match between Minerva and Orphis, and I didn't remember that there was a 7th crit. So I just end up taking a damage from the Vanguard on 3, and not remembering that a double crit could come, and a double crit came. So anyways, Right Fang Rich Disma, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power, just normal critical. Then we have 4 copies of Blade Feather Dragon, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power, auto rear. At the end of the battle, boosted. Put this unit to your soul. Choose one of your units, gets +2 for the turn, which all around is really nice. So, you know, it increases your soul, and that does end up helping with Minerva, considering Minerva is like, you know, Genesis plays, and not to mention the fact that it can also add just a 2k, which doesn't really make too much of a difference in the long run, but it does kind of help with certain boosters. So, total of 7 crits, and then we have our 4 fronts and Bard of Heavenly Song Outpack, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power. Front triggers Guard Circle, opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 gets +5k shield, which all around really nice because, you know, having the extra front to bulk up your front row, especially with the restands, all around really cool, and then having the extra 5k to the shield, so a 20k shield for defensive, especially if you've gone a little bit too much in the early game, is all around really helpful. So we run a total of 4 fronts, 7 crits. We're going the all offensive trigger line, screw draw triggers, because honestly you can make a board out of nowhere in this deck. Trust me, I know. So might as well go with the full offensive trigger lineup, am I right? And we have our 4 normal heals and circling sorcerers, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power. So if you're wondering why I don't run the effect tools, because in my opinion the effect tools are kind of like meh, like they're 50-50 skills, considering like one of them doesn't go off unless your opponent attacks you with the same unit twice or more, and the other one doesn't go off unless your opponent has an extra critical from, I want to say, effects and not triggers. correct me if I'm wrong on that one too. But again, like I don't like those triggers because them having the 10k base shield means that if you are in the situation where those abilities are not going to activate, they have less shield in total than the normal heal triggers would, and that can definitely come back to bite you in the ass a lot, especially because in the senses where even if they have those abilities that would go off, there's a chance you might have to drop those heals beforehand, meaning that you've wasted a 5k shield, and that 5k may have been needed to actually block an attack early. So I don't really like those heals a lot. They're very situational. If you want to run those heals because maybe that's how like most of your meta around you plays, then go ahead, run those heals. But I know me personally, even in those situations, those heals do not do much for me, so I'd rather run my effect heals, or my non-effect heals that are a consistent 15k shield. So 4 of Circling Sorceress. And then we have our grade 1s. First up, we have 4 copies of the PG Paladinium Zeal Dragon. Grade 1 boost, 0 souls, 6k base, continuous summon. You have 4 summons in the deck, and honest put on guard circle. Choose one of your units, it cannot be hinted in battle, and if your hand is true or more cards, choose a card from hand, discard it. Standard PG, no special battle. Basically, that means with this, only when the card is in your hand when you place it on guard circle, you don't have to discard for it, and that's great because essentially you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game, and this will defend you all to late game, even if you only have 1 hand card. Hell, even if you have 0 hand cards, this is the last card you had, it will defend you to the end, which is amazing because it just nullifies attacks. And I love this card so much. It's just an amazing PG, especially this one in particular, because Aegis Meyer chooses when he's going to like me and not. There are the decks where he'll show up, and then there are decks that he won't, and even then, like, he'll choose which games he wants to show in my hand or not. This one, he flocks to my hand every single game, every deck I play him. Youthberg, I always see 4 of them, like, all 4 of them end up in my hand at some point, and then, in this deck, at least half of them show up, so that's fun. So all around, Paladin Zeal Dragon's a nice PG, adds to the hand, adds to the defensive power. What's not to like about it? 4 of, like I said, you can use Aegis Meyer in response because they're the exact same skill, but Paladinium Zeal seems to like me more, so I'm obviously going to go for him. Also, I think his art's just cooler. Then we have 4 copies of Apple Witch Cider, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto right at the end about she boosted any unit. It doesn't matter if it's a vanguard or rear guard. If you have a vanguard of Minerva in its card name, you return this card to hand. Which all around is really nice because that means you can be as aggressive as you want and still have that 1 defense about back. Also, the fact that she's a Genesis card definitely helps in that because Minerva wants to discard Genesis cards. So being able to still get an extra attack off that will guaranteedly hit, or not guaranteedly hit, but at least be able to hit numbers to force your opponent to guard it, and then bounce itself back to hand so you can discard it from Minerva's skill, definitely is really good. And then autos put on guard circle. If you have a grade 3 or greater regalia in your soul, I thought it was on Vanguard. During that battle, she gets plus 5k shield. Okay, all around pretty good because she can turn herself into a 10k shield, which is nice, being able to essentially act as 2 cards for a guard instead of 1. All around, she's just a nice grade 1 to have. She can act very defensive. She can be helpful on the very good aggressive. All around, she's just a good card for both, and I love her so much. Like, she's an immediate 4 of in this deck. I think she's going to be one of the cards where unless something really good comes along the line, I don't think I'm going to replace her because she works so well in combos and defensive abilities. She's just good, so 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of our last grade 1, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck, of Witch of Frogs Melissa, who has proven that some ride deck cards deserve to be 4 ofs in the deck for reasons. So grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto when is wrote upon by a unit only for Genesis Sports Clan. So just like Stoicheia, I'm pretty sure how this works is you can't use it for other Keter Century ride lines because none of them have the Genesis clan, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. But then anyways, look at top 5, choose up to 2 cards from among them, put them to your soul and shuffle your deck. Okay, I kind of hate that skill because it's just the same thing for the grade 2 as well, but hey, it's still a good skill because that's a top 5. You could choose not to put anything into your soul. You could put 1 card, you can put 0 cards, you can put 2 cards, and it doesn't have to be units, so you can put orders, which is something I had to check when I played the game on channel. So all around, it's an amazing skill, just getting 2 free soul cards up to your choice, so that's amazing, and you don't have to get to the 2 free soul cards, you can just get less. And then auto when she's put into your drop zone from your soul by any means, whether it's by your Vanguard skill, whether it's by your skills, or whether it's just by something else skill. If you have a Vanguard from Minerva in its card name, you may call this card to your back row rear guard, not back row center. I mean, you can call it a back row center if you want to. And if you called, you may countercharge. Oh, that meant to say soul charge one. My bad, not countercharge. Okay, all around that's pretty great though, because being able to essentially, especially because how Minerva works, you want to soul blast out during your battle phase, and just Genesis in general, you can call this out from the drop zone and then get a soul charge to replace her, and now you have an extra booster who can be called on top of another unit, meaning you could essentially do a full board restand, and that is technically possible in this deck for very well, hefty-ish, cheapish cost. So all around, Melissa's an amazing grade 1. I love using her skill to soul charge 1 on place. Again, this is meant to say soul charge, not counter charge. But I love her skill being able to soul charge 1 by being just soul blasted and called out, getting to send 2 cards from my deck into the soul just by being rode upon, and comboing well with Cider because Cider can bounce herself so I can call her on top of the circle Cider was originally, so I get to keep that booster essentially. Melissa is an amazing grade 1, and I love using her, and that's why she's in this deck as a 3-of in the main deck and 1-of in the ride deck, because she just works so well with this deck, and I love it so much. Then we have our grade 2s. First up, we have 3 copies of this order that has a fantastic art, Wisdom of the Beginning to the Open World. Still a questionable name, and it should have been a set order in my opinion. Grade 2, normal order, play it by counterblasting 1. You draw 2 cards, and you choose 2 cards from your hand. Doesn't have to be the card you drew. Call each card if it's grade less than or equal to your vanguard, and discard if it isn't. I hate it when they do cards like this, because this is essentially pay cost, get 2 free rear guards. Like, for example, Grand March of Full Bloom Leonore, like counterblast 1, draw 1, and either discard something or call it. Which first up, you don't have to pick the card you drew either. So like, I hate that because that just essentially means you just get a free plus. And I'm not against free pluses, but I'm also like, some cards it just feels like they do that too often, especially like this one. This is just a, fuck it, get 2 free rear guards. Like, Golds did it, and even then, Golds had to do it from top cards. Like, they didn't have a choice of picking from the hand where they probably had better options. They had to pick from the top 4, top 3, so they could possibly just brick. So, and I feel like it's a little cheap doing that, but hey, it's still an amazing order, getting just, 2 rear guards, and most of the time your hand is probably going to have enough to where you can call those 2 cards that aren't triggers, unless you have to call 2 triggers, then so be it, but still. So all around, nice order. I love using it to increase my hand and get my board out more advanced, so might as well run as a 3-of. Then we have 3 copies of the thing that's only in this deck, mainly because of, this. Knight of Disruption, Diarrhean. Grade 2 5k shield, 10k base. I gotta admit though, his scythe is cool, but let's be fair, we all know the moon's the reason why I put him in this deck. Auto when he's placed on your rear guard if your vanguard's clan is only one of any clans. So, first up, he doesn't have Genesis marking, but any Keter deck can use him as long as they have a clan. So so Royal Paladin currently, Genesis, and Shadow Paladin, and any other Keter clan they choose to, or any other original clan they choose to put into Keter, can abuse the fuck out of this card, which can cause a lot of problems really quickly. Because by soul blasting 1 and discarding 1, choose a card with only 1 clan and it's as the same clan as your vanguard from your drop zone put to hand. So, you can get back a Persona Ride. So that's already one issue. You can get back your grade 3 tech. You can get back your grade 2 of the ride line who's over here. You can get back this if you want to. You can get back this. If they made a Genesis PG, you can get back this, which is why this card's going to be broken in premium because he can fetch back PGs. And you can fetch back this. So far. And all of this can cause crazy, stupid shenanigans with Minerva, which we will go over later. But all around, he's an amazing grade 2 for tech options because, you don't have to run him, but he's definitely there for late game consistency. Everything is, you've kind of paid all your cost. You're barely still hanging on, and so is your opponent. So you need that one more restand from Minerva skill. So you might as well use Darien to fetch back a Genesis card to your hand. All around, he's a nice grade 2 to have. I definitely like having him. He helps set up, even though I haven't needed to use him yet. I know he will be useful in those scenarios, so 3-of, but again, he's a tech option, so you can really do whatever you want with him. Then we have 3 copies of another tech option, who I ran on the basis that I thought she'd be more useful than she is, Turnaround Magic Tanalura. I assume how it's going to work is, when I start using him more, I'll start using her more. Grade 2 5k shield, 10k base, auto rear, the end about she attack roll boosted by anything. If your damage on is 3 or more face down cards, put up to soul counter charge 1. Okay, this ability is good because essentially it gets you a free soul charge that helps with Minerva's Soul Blast 3 cost, and not to mention the fact it can counter charge 1, so if you went for the full board restand, or at least front row restand, then you definitely have the 3 face down damage. So that's something I just have yet to be able to pull that off, so that hasn't really been useful to me. But she does help counteract basically the turn after you went all out on the aggressive. She can refresh your damage so you can do it again if you meet the requirements, which is great. So I like having Tanalura for that reason. She's an amazing grade 2 for that. I just have yet to need to use her because she only shows up during my first grade 3 turn, and then the other ones either get damage struck or just stay in deck, and I only have 1 to do face down damage at that point, so I can't really use her skill. So all around, she's a good grade 2. I just have yet to use her just like this. So again, these 2 are tech options. You can do whatever you want with them, but I do prefer to have these here because I know in the situations that I put them in here for, they'll be very useful. So I keep this at a 3-of, so I can be able to multi-attack without losing rear guards, quote-unquote. So 3 of Tanalura. Helps with the counter charge, helps increase soul, just have to wait for the right time to use her. Then we have 3 copies of the main deck, 1 copy of the ride deck of our final grade 2, and it's the grade 2 of the ride line, Witch of Ravens Chamomile. Grade 2 and a 5k shield, 10k base, auto and ruled upon by a unit with only Genesis for its clan. Again, same thing as Melissa, where I'm pretty sure you can't use other Keter ride lines that don't have Genesis for its clan, but prove me wrong. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 cards from one of them, put it to your soul, shuffle your deck. Again, it's a good skill because you get the top 5 search. You don't have to put 2 cards, and it can be any 2 cards. It doesn't have to be units or any specific type of unit. You just put any 2 cards you want to soul, and again, it can be 1 card, 0 cards, or 2 cards. But I just hate the fact that they had to like literally copy and paste the same skill onto the same cards, which is kind of disappointing, but still. And then the other ability, the ability I think we all expected to have, auto when is put into your drop zone from your soul during your turn. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard of Minerva in its card name, counter box 1 to call this card to rear guard. I'm sorry, what? Huh. This one just says if you have a Vanguard with Minerva. Are we getting a grade 4 Minerva, or is this just for premium? Because it was copied straight from the fan. I'm interested now to see where this goes, because now I'm starting to form theories in my head. Are they going to bring back the grade 4 Minerva from premium and put it into D? I'm curious. I want to see that now. But that aside, you know, being able to call itself again on top of another unit regardless, because I hate those, like the ones that call to open rearguard circles, but calling on top of another unit is great because that essentially means when you do Minerva's skill, you can technically get a full board restand, or at least a front row restand, or a front row restand and a back row single restand. So all around, a Chamomile is an amazing grade 2. It's nice. It just gets the board done. So might as well run it as a 4 of. Like, it genuinely is helpful. You want to get as much of these into soul as possible, be as aggressive as you can as possible, so you can pressure your opponent and beat them on second grade 3 turn with a Persona Ride, because you have a total of fucking 7 crits, and anyone that plays against this deck will probably know the pain of that if you manage to pull off the front row restand even once. Yeah, it's very fun doing that if you can't tell, because I keep bringing it up. So 3 in the main deck, 1 in the ride deck of Chamomile. She's just a good grade 2 for the multi-attack turn. Then we have 4 copies of the thing that fixes our counterboss problem, more or less, Regalia of Wisdom Angelica, who is very helpful when going first. Grade 3 generic Persona, 13k base, auto rear at the end of the battle she attacked into anything. If you have a Vanguard of Minerva in its card name, by soul blasting 1, choose one of your Vanguards, it gets +5 for the turn. Also, by putting her into soul, you can countercharge 1. So you don't have to put her into soul if you don't want to, but it's a beneficial to it because A, gets you a grade 3 into soul, so you can use things like Cider's skill, Minerva's first skill, and to get you a countercharge is all around amazing. And the only downside is she has to soul blast, but then again she replaces herself for it, so like it's a 50-50 skill. But all around, Angelica is an amazing grade 3 to have, because not only does she get herself into soul, like I said before, so you know you can do whole shenanigans cross-ride bullshit with other stuff, but also, you know, being able to give your Vanguard +5 and also being able to countercharge 1 is just a good ability all around. So obviously this is like an amazing 4 of card. I do wish she had a Vanguard skill because I really wanted her to be the grade 3 for the ride line, but it's how it goes. So 4 of. Then we have our last card in the deck, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck, of Omniscience Regalia Minerva. I must say though, I do love her art. The art grows on me. I don't really like her dress that much, but I do love the owl. Her hair is so pretty, and then just having like these omniscience, or not like divine wings, in my opinion. She just looks cool with that. So anyways, grade 3 generic Persona, 13k base, continuous Vanguard, the bullshit ability, in my opinion, during your turn. If you have a grade 3 or greater Regalia in its soul, regardless of who it is, as long as it's a grade 3 or greater Regalia, all your farmer units get +5k power for the turn. Okay, first up, there is no way you can get a grade 4 Regalia into soul, because to my knowledge, there is no grade 4 Regalia that's a normal unit. Because any other grade 4 Regalia I can think of is a G unit, meaning it's impossible for it to go to soul, meaning that they're going to print grade 4 Regalia Minerva into D because they want that skill. Oh my god, I just had a premonition of the future. Oh, I was right. But anyways, yeah, so being able to get front row 5k is all around really amazing, because your opponent doesn't have to be at grade 3 for that. You may be thinking, oh, how are you going to get a grade 3 or greater into soul while your opponent's at grade 2? Here's how. Angelica, straight up Angelica, or, you know, one of your ride line. All around, it's really great that you can get a free 5k just for going, I guess, first, and you add that extra little bit of pressure onto your opponent. So she's at 18, this is a 15, this is a 15, this is a 15, these are all 13s, except for this one, which is an 11. All around, it's pretty great that you have a consistent amount of pressure you can put in onto your opponent's Vanguard to force out more guarding power, so even if you don't get the board restand, but you still get at least a bit of multi-attack on your front row, they at least can still hit as long as your opponent doesn't see a trigger. Then the other ability, which seems very, like, small, and it's the ability I forgot about the most during testing games, but it's the most broken ability in my opinion on this list, and that is Act Vanguard once per turn. By soul blasting 1, you look at the top card of your deck and you put that card into top or to soul. So now here's the thing with it. Either you get a free normal unit to soul, and basically you just deck thinned, or you guarantee a trigger at top. No matter what, you are like increasing the chance of you seeing the thing you want, because either it goes to soul and you just deck thinned, or it stays on top and it's the thing you want. It's all around a good skill, no matter how simple or how like small it looks. Size is not what matters. The bullshit capability is all that matters, and I remember that because I made it sack double triggers. And then the other skill, the final skill, the one that procs off the board restand that I'll go over in a second. Auto Vanguard, once per turn, at the end of the battle, she attacked into anything. If your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, yes, apparently this is allowed to work when your opponent's at grade 2, but this isn't. Boo, Bushy, doing your fucking rule logicking. By counter blasting 1, soul blasting 3, and discarding a card with only Genesis Force Clan from your hand, you can stand her and she loses the drive for the turn. Okay, now for the record, this is a genuine ruling question. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but for this skill in particular, it's only this part applies, so it only has to be Genesis for the hand one, right? It doesn't have to be Genesis for all of these, because if it does, that's going to be very annoying. But, yeah, so all around that's a good skill, because it's a simple counterblast, it's a simple soul blast of 3, again, presumably as long as, because based off of how the comma separates it, I'm assuming like this is all one part of the skill, or like one part of the cost. But anyways, by counterblasting 1 and soul blasting 3, you typically want to soul blast 2 Camomiles and 1 Melissa to get the most multi-attack, because Melissa will call herself to the back row, and then the Camomiles will call themselves to the front row. You can then restand the Vanguard and discarding a Genesis card. So this is pretty much where Cider's bouncing mechanic comes in. Or, you could use this thing to loop this into your hand, though I would question... Sorry, I meant this one into your hand, even though I question why you would, but whatever. Especially when you have, like, I don't know, Persona Rides, this thing, everything else that's a Genesis. But worst case scenario, like I said, either way, being able just to restand the front row, essentially, get her drive -1, and then just have everyone have a 5k to the front row, and then just have still your back row of boosters, because maybe you didn't boost with the first ones because you had this in soul and or this in soul, so and or your opponent was like, or no, yeah, you just Persona Ride and you could hit anyways. Either way, it's just an amazing grade 3, being able to do the multi-attack restand, being able to stack triggers, and give power. It's like this thing was just Oracle Think Tank and Genesis wrapped in one, so people can stop asking Bushy to reprint Oracle Think Tank in D, because they already did that in the form of Genesis. And all around, that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, it's fun to play. Again, I don't like the ride line skills because they're copied and pasted, but they are fun just to like do the thing of top 5 search, send 2 cards to soul. Getting the Minerva whole board thing off, as slow as it is and as mentally mind-hurting as it kinda is, it is fun pulling it off. I miss those days of just spamming out Camomiles and Melissas 24/7 from Genesis skills. God, I want to go play Genesis and V and Premium again. I'm gonna go bother my friend after this. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really cannot wait to see where they go with this next, because this wording right here, it's on 2 cards now. You see, this one could be excused for something else, but this one definitely can't be. So I'm gonna go wait patiently until they reprint Grade 4 Minerva into D. So without further ado, I'm gonna end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Wait, before I end this off, I just want to say the reason why I'm not running the Persona Ride order is because I feel like it's cheap to run the Persona Ride order. Okay, now I'm good. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguards.